Did you know that over 40% of global entrepreneurs lose potential revenue because they don't have access to payment processors like Stripe? And in today's video, I'm going to show you the exact same method I used to get Stripe in my country, which is completely legal and little to no risk of your Stripe account ever getting banned. And the best part of this method is that you don't have to worry about paying overseas taxes, which means you only have to worry about paying taxes in your home country. I'm also going to show you how you can do this at the fraction of a cost of doing this yourself, and how to easily transfer your earnings back to your local bank account without losing money on high international fees. Before I show you the exact method to get Stripe in any non-supported country, I just want to be clear that I'm not a tax advisor, nor is this financial advice. This is just the method I used, and I'm merely just passing this information on to you to help you make an informed decision. Now, let me first explain why Stripe is critical for your online business's success and why not having it can cost you thousands every month. Well, unlike other payment processors, Stripe lets you integrate its payments easily onto your website in just a few seconds. And some of the largest software companies like Shopify, Go High Level, QuickBooks, MailChimp, and even Zoom make it super simple to integrate Stripe, unlike other payment processors. One other thing I love about Stripe is its easy reporting about your money, and it usually has fewer problems than other payment tools. When it comes to payment processors, Stripe has a lot more options, including credit cards like Visa and MasterCard, but also Apple Pay, Google Pay, and many local payment processors from different countries. And if you're selling products or services globally like I am, it happens to accept over 135 plus currencies, which allows you to show the prices to the customer in their own currency. It also handles all the tricky parts of international payments and follows the rules of each country. This means that you can sell to people all around the world while Stripe does the heavy lifting. So without Stripe, you might be losing 15 to 30% of your sales because customers can't use their favorite way to pay. You also pay higher fees with other tools, often 1 to 3% more with each sale. In South Africa, I was paying just under 10% of both international and conversion fees with PayPal, which was heavily eating into my profits. For instance, if you have a business that's making $10,000 a month, you might be losing around $300 to $500 on just fees, and that can cover various costs of your business. But you might be thinking, aren't there alternative payment processors? Well, I'm going to show you some of the popular alternatives that actually create more problems for your business. I used to do freelancing, but when it came to receiving money internationally, I would use Wise like many others do. But the problem with Wise and other similar tools is that you need to share your bank info every time to the customer. You also can't integrate a checkout on your website with Wise either. So when it comes to selling digital products, a subscription, or any sort of recurring service, unfortunately, you need a payment processor like Stripe that can handle this automatically. Another payment system I used was Payoneer for affiliate payouts, but the problem with this tool is that it doesn't let you integrate easy payment buttons on your website either. Payoneer is mostly used to get paid by big companies like Amazon, not just by your customers. The fees are also a lot higher than Stripe, and you can't save your customers' payment info for next time. Now, if you've attempted to try using a local payment processor in your country, you'll probably notice that it doesn't usually accept foreign credit cards. And the worst part is that they usually only show prices in your local currency, and this confuses international customers who are used to paying in their own currency. I've also found it hard to fully integrate smaller local payment processors into software like Go High Level, which is what I need for my business, which all in all makes it difficult for customers overseas to pay you. Now, most of you are thinking, but why not use PayPal? Well, many entrepreneurs often do turn to PayPal, but there's a huge problem that only later they discover. In my experience, I've tried integrating PayPal onto my website, but often it makes customers leave the website to pay. Now, the business that I plan to run needs to have a seamless checkout experience, and this extra step might change people's minds about buying. I know that you can customize the PayPal checkout page on your website, but usually there's limited customizability. Another downside to PayPal is that they often freeze accounts that suddenly get a lot more money. They might even hold your funds for 90 days if your business grows too quickly. And they also limit how much money you can take out each day, which does hurt your business when you have to pay big supplier bills. Lastly, PayPal reports don't show all the details you need for your taxes. So you can't easily see which sales came from each country, and the reports are usually harder to integrate with accounting software. So if alternatives don't work well and PayPal is not reliable, then what is the solution? Well, I'm about to reveal the exact method that's allowing me and thousands of others to get access to Stripe from anywhere around the world. And sometimes I like to think of this as a cheat code for third world countries like South Africa or India. So the best way, in my opinion, to get access to Stripe is by setting up a US LLC. And I don't recommend using Stripe Atlas, but I'll get to that point later. Here's the thing, Stripe basically only wants to work with businesses in countries that they support. So if you're not in one of those countries, you do need a workaround. A US LLC is perfect because Stripe loves US companies. They're super easy to approve, plus the US has this great business setup that lets you run things from anywhere in the world. And it's honestly the smoothest path to getting Stripe without all the headaches. And if you're wondering if this is legal for foreigners to do this, it absolutely is. Anyone from any country can own a US LLC, that is just how their laws work. You don't need to be a US citizen or even be in the US. It's the exact same thing from buying and ordering a product from another country. It's the same idea, you're just setting up a company there instead. And the US actually wants foreign investment, so they've made it pretty straightforward. Just make sure that you follow the rules of your home country about owning foreign businesses. The other reason why owning a US LLC is great is because when customers see a US company, they automatically feel more comfortable. It's not really fair, but a lot of people around the world often trust US companies more. They see the .com domain, that US address, and think, oh, well, this is a real company. It's especially helpful to selling to customers in Europe, the UK, or in North America. They're way more likely to pull out their credit card if they think they're buying from a US company. Another thing I like about an LLC is that if you ever want to sell the business someday, an LLC makes it worth more to buyers. And don't forget, if you ever expand to the US market, you're already set up and ready to go. Now, you might be asking yourself, can I run my business in my home country with an LLC? Yes, and that is the beauty of it. You don't need to move to America or anything. You run everything from right where you are now. The LLC is just a legal structure, not a physical office. You'll have a registered address from the US, but you'll do all the work and make all the decisions from your home country. Your customers won't know the difference, and you don't have to change anything about how you operate your business. One thing to know is that there are different US company types, and I highly recommend you stick with an LLC over something like a C corporation. With an LLC, the paperwork is easier, the fees are lower, and the tax situation is much better for non-US residents. A closed corporation, on the other hand, would make you pay US taxes, which is something you definitely want to avoid. I watched a video somewhere where someone from Pakistan has to pay over $200,000 in taxes because he set up a C corporation over an LLC. LLCs also give you that liability protection without all the corporate formalities. Finally, having an LLC will allow you to connect to Stripe. Stripe mainly cares that your business is properly registered in the US, which it will be. They're looking at your LLC, your EIN number, and your US bank account, all of which you will get legally. Sure, they might know that you're accessing your Stripe account from another country, but that's not a problem as long as your business is properly set up. Lots of US business owners travel or live abroad, so it's completely normal. Just make sure you're honest about your application and where you operate from. So now that you understand why US LLC is the perfect vehicle, I'm going to walk you through the exact steps on how to set one up, and it's much easier than you think. Look, I'm not going to lie to you, setting up a US LLC yourself is a bit of a headache. The forms are confusing, especially if you're not familiar with US business terms. You've got to figure out which state to register in, file the right paperwork, and get an EIN number from the IRS. And if you mess any of these steps up, you might need to start over. Plus, you do need an American address for all this paperwork, and it's tricky if you're not there. It's doable, sure, but it's definitely not as simple as filing a form online. And there are so many ways that people end up losing money on this. The big one is choosing the wrong state, as some states might have much higher taxes or fees. Another common mistake is missing annual report deadlines, which can trigger late fees that add up fast. Then there's a registered agent requirement. If you use a random address and not a proper service instead, you could get your LLC dissolved and you'd have to pay for all those formation fees again. And don't even get me started on tax filing mistakes. Those can cost thousands of dollars if you miss something important. So now that you understand that setting up an LLC is the best way to get access to Stripe, but setting up one yourself can be pretty difficult, you might be wondering how to set one up without all the headaches. When I first looked into this, I thought I could just fill forms online and just be done with it, but there's too many requirements and paperwork for me to even bother. That's why I highly recommend using a company formation service like Doula. I've personally used them for setting up my business, and they literally specialize in helping international entrepreneurs set up a US company. They're not the only option out there, but after doing research and seeing horror stories of people trying to set up a US LLC themselves, I found that Doula is the most reliable. So why exactly is using Doula better than doing it yourself? The actual LLC formation happens pretty quickly, typically within a week or so. The only process that takes long is getting your EIN number, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get. The good thing is that Doula handles all the back and forth with government agencies so that you don't have to constantly check status updates or worry about the whole thing yourself. They keep you updated throughout the whole process, and once everything's done, you get sent your company documents right away. Doula's packages start at around $297 plus state fees, which are about $50 to $200 depending on which state you register in. I did put a link in the description description where you can get Doula's discount using my link, or you could just search Doula online. Now, you could do this cheaper yourself. The bare minimum cost would be the state filing and registered agent fees, which would probably cost around $100 to $200. But here's the thing, when you factor in all the time you'd spend to figure out doing this yourself and all the potential expensive mistakes you'd make, Doula seems like a pretty good deal. Plus, they include services like mail scanning or compliance alerts, which you'd have to pay extra for anyways. This is actually a bigger deal than most people realize. If you miss notifications about annual reports or tax filings, you could end up with late penalties that do add up. In worst case scenarios, they could end up dissolving your LLC if you ignore certain notices long enough. And if you're using your LLC for Stripe, having your company dissolved could obviously cause major problems with your payment processing. The best thing about Doula is that they don't just set up your LLC and disappear. They've got this compliance system that tracks all your filing deadlines and requirements. They'll actually send you reminders before important dates like your annual reports or tax filings. They also keep an eye out on any rule changes that might affect your business. Without something like this, it's super easy to miss deadlines that you didn't even know existed, especially when there's certain requirements by each state. Basically, they help you stay on top of things that would be really hard to track by doing this in your home country. Now, the biggest concern that most people have is taxes. And I'm going to explain to you why you don't have to pay a single US dollar in taxes with this setup. This is the part that most people get completely wrong. Let's talk about taxes, which is probably what most of you are worried about. Will I have to pay US taxes for my LLC? Probably not. Here's the deal, most people setting this up won't actually have to pay any US taxes at all. It's actually one of the biggest advantages to this whole method. But look, I'm not a tax professional and everyone's situation is different. What I can tell you is that the way we're structuring this, most international entrepreneurs will end up with zero US tax liability. This works because an LLC is what we call a pass-through entity. It's a weird name, I know, but it's actually super helpful, and what it means is that the LLC itself doesn't pay taxes. Instead, the profits pass through to the owners of that LLC. Now, if you're not a US citizen or you don't operate within the US, these profits pass through to you in your home country. The IRS basically says not our problem and leaves it to your country's tax system. To make this work, you do need to set up your LLC in the right state. There are a few options, but my top recommendations are Wyoming and Delaware. These states have zero state income tax, and what you're avoiding here is that extra layer of taxation on top of federal taxes. Some states like California or New York will charge you state income tax even if you somehow avoided federal tax. Because if you didn't know, the US has both state income tax and federal income tax. The key to this whole zero tax strategy is making sure your income isn't effectively connected to the US. The IRS uses this concept called effectively connected income, or the term ECI. Essentially, if your business isn't physically operating within the US, you don't have offices or employees, and you are not selling US products or services to US customers within the US, then you are not effectively connected to the US. And if your income isn't effectively connected, then here's the good part, you are not subject to federal tax. You would then be exempt from both state tax and federal tax. Now, this doesn't mean that you're avoiding taxes completely. You would still need to report your income and pay taxes to the country where you work or live in. But the benefit here is that you don't have to worry about paying taxes in another country. Even though you are avoiding taxes, there are some unavoidable fees. You'll have an annual state fee, usually called an annual report fee. You'll also need to maintain a registered agent service, which is usually $100 to $200 a year. And if you're using Doula, this is included in the annual service fee. There might be some small filing fees for certain documents as well. All in, you're looking at maybe under $400 a year to maintain everything properly. Compared to what you'd pay in US taxes otherwise, this is pretty minimal. Now that you understand how to set up your LLC and understand the tax situation, you now need to set up a US bank account. This is super important as Stripe needs to deposit your money somewhere. And I'm going to show you how to get one completely for free without ever having to set foot in America. So what is the best US bank to use? Well, with an LLC as an international entrepreneur, I've found that Mercury is the best company to use. There are a few options out there, but what I found is Mercury is the best for startups and international entrepreneurs. And the best part is that it's completely for free. They have no monthly fees, no minimum balances, and no hidden charges. The reason why I like Mercury is because, for one, they're completely online and you never have to visit a branch in person. And that's obviously huge if you're not in the US. Their application process is also way easier than other traditional banks. While the Bank of America or Chase might make you jump through endless hoops as a non-resident, Mercury knows exactly what we're doing here. They regularly work with international founders and Doula customers. Mercury gives you both checking and savings accounts, physical and virtual debit cards, and their online dashboard is actually pretty simple to use. You can do wire transfers transfers, ACH payments, and they integrate directly with your accounting software. The customer service is also surprisingly good. They actually respond when you have questions, which is more than I can say for a lot of traditional banks. Now, what about using alternatives like Wise? Wise is a solid option for holding and converting currencies, and I actually use it alongside with Mercury. But here's the thing, Wise isn't technically a bank, it's a financial technology company. And some services like Stripe prefer you to use an actual bank. That said, Wise is amazing for moving money internationally and getting great exchange rates. And finally, when it comes to sending money from your US bank to your local bank, this is where using Wise and Mercury come in handy. The cheapest way is usually to transfer from Mercury to Wise, convert to your local currency in Wise, and then send to your local bank. Mercury may have charges for their international wire transfers, but I do know that Wise has one of the lowest currency conversion fees. You could also use the Mercury debit card directly for business expenses online or withdraw cash from ATMs worldwide. The entire setup process for getting your Mercury bank account takes about a week once you've received your EIN number from Dula. Once you've got your Mercury bank account up and running, setting up Stripe is the easiest part of the whole process. Just head over to Stripe's website and sign up with your LLC information. You'll need to provide your EIN, your US business address, the one that Dula gave you, and connect your Mercury bank account. Stripe will then ask for some basic verification documents like your LLC formation papers, your ID, but nothing too complicated. The approval process is usually pretty quick and most people get approved within 1 to 2 business days. And that's it. You can start accepting payments through your website's checkout page, use Stripe's payment links, or even set up recurring subscriptions. The best part is that you're now operating with a fully legitimate US business and bank setup. So there's no risk of your account getting shut down because you're in an unsupported country. Just make sure that you have your Dula and Mercury accounts in good standing and you'll have a reliable payment processor for the long haul. And just on a side note, some people might suggest setting up a UK company instead, but I've set one up before, and the only problem with setting up a UK company is that you are subject to corporate taxes even if you are operating in a completely different country. And personally, my goal is to not have to worry about taxes in another country. That being said, I hope you found this video helpful to getting access to Stripe seamlessly and legally. And if you're ready to set this up yourself, I have put a special link in the description for Dula that gives you a discount for your LLC formation. When you click the link, make sure to enter Refer a Founder 10 so that you can get your discount. And feel free to drop any questions in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them.